Welcome, I'll be reviewing Star Trek Picard Season 2, Episode 4. These are just my jotted down notes as I watched the episode. I was not expecting a World War II occupied France history moment. The ruins of Chateau Picard were fascinating. Talking about hiding out in the tunnels, presumably for aging wine, reminded me of that book by Roger Hall, You're Stepping on My Cloak and Dagger. Oh, that is a fun book. I mean, in a really disturbing way. But it's funny. It's hard to explain. Check it out. The abandoned house was kind of giving me a bit of a horror vibe as well, especially when it triggered those old memories. Agnes talking about mini Picard running around going, milk chocolate, hot, was just so adorable. And then when she gravitated to that 1915 Pinot Noir, not only was it a clue, but she has great taste in wine. Also, I never really thought about where exactly the chateau was in France. The fact that she found a Pinot seems to indicate it's in Burgundy. If you know exactly where it's supposed to be, put it in the comments. I'm really curious. Okay, now I know this season is an homage to the Whales movie because they recreated the infamous bus scene. Even the same song. Yes! That is Kirk Thatcher. I'm so sorry you didn't get to see the reaction to him on the bus. I had to pause to just have a fangirl moment of like... And then I pretty much just rewatched that whole scene about a dozen times just to bask in its awesomeness. For anyone unfamiliar, in Star Trek 4, there's this fantastic scene on the bus where a punk is blasting this music and everyone is glaring at him, and Spock eventually goes over and just puts him to sleep with a little Vulcan neck pinch. And here he is in 2024, still in California. So that means he met not one, but two separate groups of Starfleet time travelers. And I have a little headcanon theory that he went back to San Francisco by the end of the year, which means he might have been near the Bell riots and met three groups of Starfleet time travelers. I also enjoyed that he learned his lesson about the boombox, so when Seven was like, turn that off, he was like, yeah, sorry, I'm turning it off. There is a really interesting theory running around now that Agnes becomes a Borg queen. Some people think it actually is Agnes as this Borg queen somehow through timey-wiminess. But I'm pretty sure it's just a generic Borg queen because I think there are more than one. And this one was so impressed by Agnes that she's kind of eyeing her, not as a successor exactly, but like a fellow queen, I feel like. If there's more than one in the collective, which I suspect there is, I feel like Agnes is going to be recruited. That's the vibe I'm getting. That at the end of this season, the big reveal will be Agnes as a Borg queen. I'm going to throw that out there now. Is this too wild of a theory? Let me know what you think. The moment I saw Forward Avenue, I was like, Guinan? I did not expect to see her this episode. It was a welcome surprise. And I love who they cast as young Guinan. Plus her hair was so gorgeous. Oh. And then the little dog Luna. It made sense that she was around because they saw her, I think it was in Times Arrow in the 1890s, and she was hanging around in California. It's conceivable that they'd run into her again. The set design for Ice seemed pretty accurate based on the photographs I've seen, right down to the mats on the floor. I think she's starting to be suspicious about who he is, though. She's pretty smart. I think she'll figure it out soon, possibly in the next episode, and definitely by the end of the season. And then that scene where Chris was just telling them the truth. I'm a captain of a starship. And going on about new life and new civilizations, and the guards are just like... It was a pretty bold move, and it reminded me a lot of Colonel Jack O'Neill in SG-1 when they went back in time, and he was acting in a very similar way and just making all these Star Trek and Star Wars references, and they were like, who are you?
Captain James T. Kirk of the Starship Enterprise.
I forget what he said exactly, but it was something like that. I loved how Guinan decided that Picard was trustworthy because Luna approved of him. And she gave an incredible performance as Guinan. They've got one tiny ball in the entire galaxy, and all this species wants to do is fight. I have given them long enough. That was a really moving scene. And even though Picard gave one of his inspirational speeches at the end, I'm not sure it was enough. She was really going through it. She had good points too about hatred becoming the defining characteristic of humanity. And having to sit there and watch was too painful for her. That was a really thought-provoking scene. And seeing the two of them together, I really like the relationship with Guinan and Picard. It's just such a deep friendship, transcending time apparently. Rafi pulling a phaser out, saying blithely, "I have no idea how this got here," just made me adore her even more. The relationship between these two was so oddly sudden last season that I was a bit jarred by it. I was like, wait, what? Huh? But finally seeing them together in scenes, I'm here for it. Their chemistry is off the charts. This could turn into the Seven and Rafi show, and I would be perfectly happy with that. The whole scene with them in the car, with the chase scene, was... Seven trying to drive that car was worth the price of Paramount Plus alone. Rafi backseat driving, shouting, "Truck! No, go back that way. It's a yellow. Yellow means faster." And Seven's like, "I'm trying to drive." They're like a married couple already. Change always comes later than we think it should. Wise words from Picard. The whole Watcher sequence reminded me a lot of the recent Loki show and how she kind of took over bodies to talk to other Loki. It was interesting, but honestly I was very distracted by the park they were in because it was so pretty. Q losing his powers, that cannot be good. And then of course the Europa space mission jacket he was wearing was another obvious clue about what's going on. So the question is, did the deviation occur as a mistake? What if Q was not trying to create an alternate universe, he was just trying to preserve the one that they had? But it didn't work because he couldn't snap the standard one into existence. And I think he might have been reaching out to Picard just in his head. Because so far, nobody else has been able to see Q except Picard. Which is odd because before, he would appear and everyone on the bridge would be like, "Why is there mariachi music playing right now?" I think Q and Picard have a close enough connection to each other that using what was left of his abilities, Q reached out to the only person he could call on to help. And he was trying to warn Picard in his own very Q-like fashion, asking for help. I think Q needed Picard to come to this era to figure out what was going on, and basically just summoned him, mentally. What do you think is going on? I'd love to hear. As a recap of this entire episode, I would basically caption it, "Be gay, do crime." In season 2, I am loving it so far. I feel like Picard was a show that just needed to decant for a while, and now it's ready to pour. I love it.